for himself and for the team. Joel also brings up all the time, and I mentioned that his son was with him at the practice facility. Joel talks a lot about leaving a legacy for Arthur. Like, I want to be someone that he's proud of, and like, I did everything that within my power to accomplish this and win this and get this award and win a title. And like, really at this point, there is no way for Joel Embiid's legacy to advance without winning, right? He is already viewed as one of the best and most talented players in the game. He's put up the stats. He's won an MVP. Guys who were like, hey, they should build around Ben Simmons instead of him, left and immediately floundered, right? Like, he has done everything you could do to prove I'm a great individual player. I can produce regular season results. I've been the plus minus king in the playoffs. He just had a 50-point game in the playoffs. Like, you can put up stats and you can do all these things, but nobody will put you in a higher tier when it all is said and done of like Joel Embiid versus, I saw this was being argued at some point over the last few days. It was like Joel Embiid versus David Robinson versus Patrick Ewing, like some of these other bigs that are below the title winners, like the Hakeems, the Shaqs, the Duncans. And for Joel to progress past those guys, he has to win. That is the only way, whether it's locally in Philadelphia, whether it's the historic stuff nationally around the world, the way people talk about him, or if it's just for going to your son, going to your family, going to your loved ones, that last final hurdle is winning. And I know it's easy to get wrapped up in like, of course Joel cares about the stats. Like, Joel pays so close attention to the league. He knows what every great player is doing. He knows who he's being compared to. And so the stats mean something to him in that regard. But I truly believe him when he says things like, you know, the championship is what really matters. Like, the title is what really matters. Because if it wasn't, when it got to the playoffs and he's playing through injuries, he would just sit, right? He knows what his reputation is. He knows when he plays hurt and doesn't play well, the type of criticism he's going to get. But you can look at great players, including guys in other sports, like one that always leaps out to me. Remember LaDainian Tomlinson, how great he was as a running back?
Yep.
There were multiple times in playoff games where he had some kind of knock and was just like, I can't go, and I'm not going to go, and I'm not going to put myself at risk. Joel is a contrast to that. Joel's putting himself out there and doing his best. So I believe him when he says he wants to win. But do you want to win at the same level as those guys you're talking about, the LeBrons, who his whole life to like the 99th percentile is all about trying to win and maximize your ability to. It's changing your diet. It's working out and sleeping in, you know, air casts and cryo chambers and all this ridiculous stuff. How hard are you willing to push yourself every second of your life, every day, every week, every month? That is the challenge ahead of Joel Embiid. And we're going to see just how much where he's willing to go over these next 4 years to try to win a title. I would be thrilled for him, for the city, for the organization, if he can finally get over that hump, because it is the one thing standing between him and like true, like, Hall of Fame. Like, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame more than likely as it is. But between being in the Hall of Fame and you're one of the guys in the Hall of Fame, that's an important distinction.
Oh, he will definitely be in the Hall of Fame. It's the difference between being Dan Marino and one of the greats. Like, Dan Marino doesn't come up in one of the greatest of all time discussions for a long. And
he changed the game. Like, he's MVP a foundational player of the 80s and the early 90s.
MVP winner. I think he led the league in passing yards like 7 out of 8 years or something like that. He's just not in these conversations because it didn't translate.
You don't want to be one of the best guy to never win a title, right? No. It's better to be, if you're at the low end of guys who are greats that won a title, that's better than being.
Look at that TNT show. Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith were Ernie Johnson, but Kenny Smith and Shaq specifically likes to make fun of Charles Barkley because he does not have that title. While he's one of the greatest players of all time, he's a Hall of Famer, clearly. And Kenny Smith is not a Hall of Famer, but guess what? He's got 2 titles, and he's got one above.
It does
Charles
drive me
Barkley.
crazy. At least with Shaq, it's like I go back to I love Chuck on the bus driver stuff with Kevin Durant. I know you're a KD guy, so we don't have to go too far down.
It's funny.
Like Chuck can take it from Shaq, right? Because Shaq is a all-time inner circle great. Kenny Smith being like, "Oh, you never won a ring." Like, all right, Kenny, you had a good career, but let's
settle down, buddy.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Settle down, buddy.
We all silly like the mayor.